on this episode of the Security Return.
From a social engineering perspective, executives are a highly desirable target.
If I'm a real threat actor, I'm not going to target everyone but the executives. A real threat actor is going to go after those high value targets, namely the executives.
Your employees are your biggest attack surface. And in this episode, you're going to hear exactly what pen testers see from Tyler Ramsbey. Hi, welcome to the Security Return powered by Kairos Sec. I'm Dr. Gerald Auger alongside my co-host, Senior Offensive Security Pen Tester, Tyler Ramsbey, and we are getting into the human layer weaknesses today and helping you understand how you can fix it and address it in your own environments. Tyler, welcome to the show, man. What does social engineering actually look like in today's day?
Yes, I'm glad we're talking about this because I feel like a lot of organizations will do their quarterly phishing emails. And when you look at it, it's like very obvious this is a phishing email. That's a good starting point, but not realistic. Today, social engineering does look like a combination of phishing emails. Those are still being sent out, but very targeted phishing emails, spear phishing. We pick out a specific employee, study their background, and send an email directly about something they have going on, and we often do that alongside of phone calls. It is one thing to read an email and hit the fish alert button. It's another thing to read the email while you're on the phone with the person telling you what to do, claiming to be from an internal department. Your guard is down and they're using that to exploit your employees, to steal their credentials. So modern social engineering is phone calls, phishing emails, and honestly, sometimes an on-site component where someone shows up as an electrician and they're walking around your office talking to employees, tailgating. All of that happens today by real threat actors targeting your organization.
So, what kind of patterns are you using in real engagements when you're doing pen testing for clients that would simulate what a threat actor would be trying to do as well?
Yeah, so I do this almost every social engineering assessment, and it works most of the time. But one of the first things I do is I call their internal IT help desk. And let's say the person says, "Hey, this is Jerry. How can I help you?" I just hang up. Like, I don't actually want to talk to the help desk. But what that tells me is there was someone in the help desk named Jerry, and I know the help desk phone number. I can then spoof any phone number I want. So I'll spoof the internal help desk number and I will call employees, say, "This is Jerry calling from the help desk." And unless it's a very small organization where everybody knows everybody, they're like, "Oh, yeah." And then they might even look me up on the employee org chart and they'll say, "Hey, there is a guy named Jerry who works in the help desk." And from there, I will say, "Hey, did you receive the email I sent out?" The truth is, I haven't actually sent them an email yet. So they'll say no. And I'll say, "Oh, let me resend it while I'm on the phone with you." So while I'm talking to them, I'll send them an email. They'll click it. There'll be a link that maybe spoofs an internal employee portal. I tell them to log in real quick to get access to whatever information they need. They log in, and all at the same time, I just stole their credentials. I'll even set it up so it goes to the real website. But that is how a lot of social engineering works, and that is what I do. If you've heard about groups like Scattered Spider, that's almost their entire MO, spoofing the help desk, doing a password reset, something along those lines. But those are the patterns we see that real threat actors take. And so when we do social engineering at Kairos Sec, we want to give people the best value for their time. So we emulate those same exact tactics. So your organization gets a feel this is a real social engineering campaign, not just an email that was sent out about a UPS package that you missed.
I have worked in information security for 20 years. I have worked with a lot of different stakeholders and business leaders. And if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably going to say preach to the screen right now or to your phone. Executives like to be treated differently, right? You might be a Windows shop, but the executives get the MacBooks and whatever. You know what? They've earned it. They can have special considerations. But from a social engineering perspective, executives are a highly desirable target. Do you use different techniques in order to target and socially engineer those particular type of users?
It's a great question. One thing I just want to point out to people, maybe as a point of learning, you would be surprised how many times when I do a social engineering campaign and we talk about the scope for it, they'll say all employees are in scope except for, and they will give the executives. And when that happens, I try to push back and explain to them if I'm a real threat actor, I'm not going to target everyone but the executives. A real threat actor is going to go after those high value targets, namely the executives. So if they're in scope, which they should be, then the way that we would target an executive is similar, but a little bit different on the pretext side of things. So to target an executive, we'll spend a lot of time studying their background, studying their opportunities that they have, studying things they have going on, and we make it very much a tailored pretext, or pretext is just what we plan ahead of time, the role that we're taking on to target the executive. I actually somewhat recently on a social engineering campaign, I was able to fish the CEO of a large organization because I sent out an email about an update to the remote work policy. So I don't know if the CEO is like, wait, do we send an update to our remote work policy? And out of all people, he saw it, he clicked it, he logged into the employee portal to read it. And in one email, I was able to steal the credentials for the CEO of the entire organization. I have a feeling that if it was a different employee, there may have been something in place to stop that from happening, maybe DNS filtering to stop them going to the website. But often executives don't have that barrier. They have a little more freedom. But as a threat actor, I would know that and I would target that information and see what I can exploit. So make sure your executives are in scope. And yes, we use a different process to target them. But at the end of the day, people are people. So it's a little bit different what we're aiming for, but we're still exploiting the human element, the trust, the honestly, get this guy off the phone with me so I can get back to my job. And we're exploiting all of that in order to steal those credentials.
So social engineering attacks the humans. You've made that pretty clear already in this episode. And the way that we address that is through awareness training, right? So why is awareness training alone not enough to thwart this type of attack?
It's not enough because I think awareness training, although it helps employees once again become aware of the tactics, it is not the real world. Somebody is on the phone with me while sending me an email or while talking to me. A skill that I have, and I spent part of my journey is I spent 10 years as a pastor. So I think I'm relatively good at talking to people and building trust, but that can also be used for bad things, and threat actors can be relatively skilled at that as well. So when I'm on the phone with you, I can do a pretty good job of building rapport right away and getting you to trust me. That's just not something you are shown in the employee awareness training. You might watch a short little web video about how that can happen, but watching a video of it happening and experiencing it yourself are two completely different things. So I wouldn't say rid of employee awareness training, but I would say you need to do employee awareness training plus social engineering pen tests, not just sending out emails on your own, but having a third party who is skilled at this, who does it day in and day out, come in and see what information they are able to retrieve. And I also want to emphasize the purpose of that is not to trick your employees. Like, I'm not trying to be mean to the employees, but rather to identify holistically what are some both technical and non-technical controls we can put in place so that when a real threat actor does this, because they will do it, it's much better to have me talk to your employee than scattered spider talk to your employee. The outcomes are going to be a lot different. But if we do it first, you'll be able to have some of those extra defenses and extra training in place.
Yeah, and I can definitely see as an executive the value in post pen test if you were able to compromise the help desk. Again, not to shame or throw shade at any particular help desk representative, but not going wide to the whole organization, but showing, playing that audio from that conversation to the entire help desk so they can see how easy it is that they could have fallen for that, and kind of like bake it into their brain that this is what it looks like, almost kind of like showing how a magic trick happens. You're more interested and drawn in when you're seeing behind the curtain. So definitely an opportunity if you're doing a pen test to take some of those activities that happen and use them as training, as well as just the report for hardening your environment. So I always like to ask you this question, Tyler. I run a business. I actually run multiple businesses, and I don't have infinite budget. I can't do all the things. Give me some realistic, practical guidance that I can use to help fix and secure my business or reduce risk today.
I think I kind of knocked on this just a second ago, but the employee awareness training although it's not the end all be all, it's a really good starting point. So if you don't have something in place that is engaging for your employees, that people are actually doing, not like the dreaded, I have to do my employee awareness training, and then they put it off to the very last minute till they get an email from their supervisor or manager, right? I think if you can make that employee awareness training engaging for your employees, that's a great place to start. Part of that could be just kicking off a pen test so that they realize, oh wow, we are like really vulnerable and we need to learn this to kind of build that ownership over it. But that the pen test may not be the easiest, but the employee awareness training is relatively easy. There's a lot of companies, a lot of organizations that can offer that. And then also the whole pause before you click culture. It's something that I remember when I was a kid and I was first using the internet, like it was dial up internet. But my parents were always like so hesitant, like, be careful who you're talking to online, be careful what you click. I feel like we've lost that. Like we need to become suspicious again of all the links, all the things, all the emails, right? You need to verify, 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 but you have to build that culture. And I think that culture comes from the leadership at the top. That's where I really caution when an executive is like, hey, this applies to you, but it doesn't apply to me. Good leadership means I'm going to lead the way through this. So you should emphasize that in your own communication and your own leadership, and it will eventually permeate the culture of your organization. I'd also recommend easy reporting. So having like a fish alert button is huge. An employee sees that it might be a phishing email, send it over to the IT team. They can review it securely. And whether or not it is, award the employee. Like it could just be like giving them a high five and say, hey, awesome job. You saw what was potentially a phishing email and you did exactly the right thing. So encouraging that positive security culture. And if I could just throw one more thing on there, we talked about this before, but that's MFA. If
Yeah.
I steal credentials for an employee, but you have MFA enabled, it's going to make my job not impossible, but a lot more difficult. And you're going to stop a lot of threat actors just with that MFA prompt. So those are the few things on the basic level that if you do them, you're going to see the returns massively in your organization security culture.
And as a CISO and just a huge GRC advocate, I'd love to offer a suggestion for those business leaders out there to get real wins. Tyler says, awareness training is effective, but people put it off, put it off. You should redefine the way that you do awareness training. I like to do a single point, like one key takeaway that you can say in 2 sentences or less, and send that weekly. So then they almost get used to this idea that, oh, it's Monday. Here comes the little nugget of knowledge each day, instead of trying to give them a 45-minute PowerPoint with so much
Mm,
information. You're not going to consume anything. People are going to speed run that. So by doing it weekly, and it takes, whatever, 10 minutes to put it together, you're actually able to begin to foster and instill a security culture because they're used to seeing it. It is normalized instead of a once a year, activity that people have to go through.
that's so good. Yeah, that's spot on.
So it's time for our favorite segment of the show. We do this every episode. So if you're new here, you're going to love it. This is a lightning round. We put Tyler on the clock and he hits 20 seconds to answer these questions. We have a buzzer to sound if he goes long, just so we can cut him off. We always love hitting the buzzer. So let's see what we got on our lightning round today. Tyler, 20 seconds. Who falls for phishing more, executives or staff?
I would probably say staff, but I have to give a caveat to that. One reason is because executives are often out of scope for an engagement, like for a phishing engagement. But number two, a lot of executives have staff who read their emails first. They don't read them themselves first. So then you could email an executive and still phish a staff. So overall, staff.
That's a good point that a lot of executives have workforce that are doing their emails
Yes.
for them. Next question. One social engineering tactic that always works.
There is nothing that always works. And so I would say the one that works the most is doing a phone call alongside of an email. But one big challenge is getting people to pick up their phone, even if they recognize the number. But a phone call, and while I'm on the phone, I send an email, their guard is down, I've built the report. That works most of the time, but nothing always works, to be clear.
All right. So blend the phone call, email in your training. Let people know that that's what Tyler's coming at you with. What's one thing that employees should stop doing immediately? Go.
clearly just don't ever read their email. I'm just kidding. So one thing they should stop doing immediately is responding to suspicious emails, suspicious text messages. We used to do war driving back in the day to find open Wi-Fi networks. Now threat actors are doing war calling to see who answers their phone, who responds to an email, and that'll put you on a target list.
All
I had
right.
like 4 extra seconds at the end there,
I know.
but I'll
We
take it.
like to, I think you said had 2 seconds at the end of the first one, so you're queuing them up. All right, next one. Here we go. What's the most interesting pretext you've used in a real engagement?
Ooh, most interesting pretext. It's probably not exciting because the more interesting and unique it is, the less of a chance somebody's going to fall for it. I often use the help desk pretext because I used to manage a help desk and it's super effective. So it's just honestly the help desk pretext. I have a few stories on that, but I hit the timer, but it's
All
not
right.
unique, but it works.
Maybe we can do a ghost stories kind of episode where you just share stories from real engagements that are fun. Next one, final option. Here we go. Tyler, if a business could fix one human layer weakness, what should it be?
Ooh, one human layer weakness. It should fix just the response to the emails. That could be DNS filtering. So if I click a phishing email, it literally stops your employee from visiting it. That's looking at DNS age. Your blue team can help you with that. But that's a huge thing and honestly really hard for me to bypass as a pen tester.
All right, hard to bypass. I like the sound of that. So there we go. That is your lightning round. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. We're almost wrapping the show up. We talked at the intro of the show that you were going to find out in this episode how human layer weaknesses are actually exploited at your business. We've been talking with Tyler Ramsbey, senior offensive pen tester, who does social engineering attacks all the time. Tyler, what is something that people should take away from this episode as they're leaving?
The biggest takeaway I would say is your employees are not your enemies. They are your partners in the security endeavor. When you are rolling out a social engineering awareness campaign in particular, you have to be very careful that you don't make the employees feel like they are unfairly being targeted or it's an us versus them. The moment that happens, it's going to ruin your entire security culture. So make sure you view it as a partnership, not an us versus them. And hey, I will just say at Kairos Sec, we do a lot of social engineering and we are able to emulate threat actors, I think, very, very well. So if you want to get a feel for where your organization is at, maybe you think you have a good security awareness culture, but you want to get reality to see, hey, maybe this is good. We can verify it, or hey, these are some areas to improve. We would love to work with you. So reach out. We'll figure out a plan specifically for your organization, and then we can work on together improving your security culture and improving on the social engineering side of things.
And that's kairos-sec.com. There'll be links to that in the show description, in the below on the video or in the audio podcast app. You've been listening to the Security Return powered by Kairos Sec. I'm Jerry. He's Tyler. We'll see you in the next episode.